Hello friends, what's up? It's Jaime here. Welcome back to another Fangirl Fridays video. If you are wondering why I'm not in my usual filming space, it is because it has essentially been taken over by the unexpected arrival of a little furry friend who you'll be seeing on screen right now. We are currently, as of when I'm filming this, on like day 5 of taking in this cat that my brother and his friend brought home. We took her to the vet. She was not microchipped. She doesn't have any kind of like she has a collar, but it's a flea collar. Like there's no name, there's no kind of identification, there's no way to contact whose cat this may be. And we put up notices on like social media for like the area, like, hey, is this anybody's cat? So far, no one has reached out yet. This may very well change by the time this video goes up. I'll keep you guys posted on the cat situation. We've just been calling her the little lady because we don't know her name. And also, again, we're kind of still in this very interesting interim period because we have very much enjoyed getting to know the little lady, but we don't know if she's going to become a permanent resident of the house or if someone is going to claim her. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. And my filming space is where we've kind of set up the cat room essentially. So that's why we're here. I thought about filming in my room, but it gets really hot in there and it's still like, even though it's technically like the beginnings of fall, it's still like it's still pretty hot around here. And I didn't feel like sweating to death. So that's why I'm in this corner of my house that has some decent lighting. So I don't know if this will become my official temp filming space. Again, anything can change by the time I film this video and I film my next video with the whole stuff with the cat. So I will definitely keep you guys posted. But anyway, this video is not about the cat. Sorry. I just felt like I needed to give like an explanation as to why I'm here. Anyway, moving on to what this video is actually about. I have established numerous times on the channel at this point, but in case you're new here and you don't know, I am a absolutely huge die-hard fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It is my favorite franchise of all time. 2012 TMNT on Nickelodeon is my favorite show of all time. I love everything and anything Ninja Turtles. So earlier this year, I made a video about the Mutant Mayhem movie that came out last year, which will be linked down below in the description in case you want to check that out. But the long and short of that video is that I really loved that movie. It easily became my favorite Ninja Turtles movie to date, which was really exciting because, in case you don't know, Ninja Turtles movies can be a bit of a toss-up. They're a little bit of a coin flip on whether or not they're going to be good. And while I'd like to think that Ninja Turtles movies have been on a general upwards trajectory since the Batman vs. TMNT movie and the Rise movie, I couldn't be certain that Mutant Mayhem was also going to be good until I saw it because they were made by completely different creative teams. And, like, I still watch the Ninja Turtles movies that aren't good. Don't ask me how many times I've seen the Michael Bay movies because the answer is too many. Because I go into every single Ninja Turtles movie or just every new entry into the franchise with hopes that it will be good because I love this franchise and I want every new iteration to succeed. Thankfully, Mutant Mayhem was a success, so much so that they even got a canonical spin-off series called Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is what we will be talking about today, not to be mistaken with season 5 of the 2012 TMNT series, because that season was also referred to as Tales of the TMNT. All episodes of season 1 of this Tales of the TMNT came out on Paramount Plus on August 9th, and I watched all of them, and I have thoughts. So today, I wanted to give my general review of Tales of the TMNT. Again, this, continuation of the Mutant Mayhem universe. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, the first thing that I wanted to touch on is the intro song. It felt like the best place to start. If you are a Ninja Turtles fan, then you know that the Ninja Turtles cartoon theme songs are very iconic and memorable, if I do say so myself. my personal favorite is the 2012 theme song, and yes, I am very biased. And I will continue to be very biased throughout this video, as you will see. But the Rise theme song is definitely a close second. So if I'm being honest, I was honestly really bummed that the Tales of the TMNT intro song is just an instrumental with no lyrics, because again, every Ninja Turtles cartoon theme song has been a song that introduces the turtles, whether it introduces them individually or as a unit. There's always been some catchy lyrics that helps you get acquainted with the turtles. And like maybe in this age of streaming, they just didn't feel the need to have something like that. Maybe they were like, oh, people are just going to skip the intro anyway. But it's just kind of one of those things that you come to expect from Ninja Turtles cartoons. Like, it could have been a remix of an old theme song or completely new lyrics, but it just would have been nice if this song had had some actual lyrics in any capacity. The actual like animation sequence is for the intro is really cool. Like, I really liked it, but again, it just made me really want a theme song with lyrics, because I was just like, damn, the animation is so good. Like, it really leans into that cool comic book aesthetic, and the instrumental is good too. Like, it's a good instrumental, but again, and this is just me being nitpicky, I just really wish it had had a little bit more pizzazz, meaning I wish it had lyrics. Anyway, moving on to the characters, because of how the season was structured, we essentially got two dedicated episodes for each of the turtles, and April and Splinter got one, and even Bishop got her own episode. Having these like individual episodes really helped us dive into these versions of these characters, because in the Mutant Mayhem movie, they really function as a unit, and now we get to see how they function individually. And I feel like it is only appropriate for me to start with Leo, because he is my favorite turtle in most iterations of Ninja Turtles, and this iteration is no exception. Obviously, if you know me, 2012 Leo, he will always be my number one. That will always be my guy. But this Leo is genuinely a close second. Every version of Turtles sort of explores Leo's identity as the leader in a new way. They always take it in a new direction. And in this show, I found it really interesting to see how, because the turtles were split up for the first time in the Bishop arc, you really get to see how much Leo depends on his brothers despite being the leader. Like, Mutant Mayhem already established that Leo was struggling to find his voice as a leader because he's insecure, and you still get to see those insecurities on display in this show, because his brothers definitely don't help. They tease him relentlessly for being dorky, and to be fair, he is dorky, but I find that so endearing. Like, I generally like really like every Leo across the franchise, but I always really prefer it when he's dorking. I just find it so endearing. But since in the movie Leo was able to get a better handle on being a leader, it's really interesting to see that now he's sort of they kind of give the implication that he's built his identity around being the leader, around being a part of a team, being a part of a unit with his brothers, so much that he feels lost without them, which I thought was really interesting of them to explore. But yeah, that was really cool of them to explore, and I really can't wait to see what they do next with Leo. My biggest hope is that he gets to have like a really big, like, heroic, badass moment, because he deserves it, and like, he's got the skills. Like, I definitely believe he can pull it off. He just needs like a confidence boost, and I definitely think that we can get there. So I'm very excited to see what the future holds for him. Next, I wanted to talk about Donnie. I love this version of Donnie. Obviously, 2012 Donnie will always have my heart, but I think that the choice to make this Donnie this like huge pop culture nerd was such a good choice. It gave him so many great lines. And I loved how they animated Donnie's recap of the Mechazoid attack and how it was all video game-esque. That was such a fun sequence. And just in general, I loved how each of the turtles giving their recap and their play-by-play of how the events unfolded, that it felt very suited to each of their personalities. Something I thought that was really interesting for them to do was the choice to make this Donnie more of like this reluctant tech guy for the team, because he mentioned several times throughout the show that he's not the IT guy, and while he's able to hack into Bishop's system with the computers and create Metalhead, he does these things out of necessity and not so much because he's super like interested in creating gadgets for himself or the rest of the team. I wonder if when we get the second movie or in later seasons of this show, we'll see more of Donnie showing an interest in creating inventions, because the turtles having all of these like cool gadgets is kind of a staple of the franchise. It's what they like make the toys out of. So I'm just interested to see if they're going to stray away from that, or if they're kind of like building up to it, like Donnie is going to actually, this Donnie's going to develop more of a passion for inventing. So that will definitely be interesting to see going forward. Also, I just wanted to say that the fact that you can hear Micah Abbey going through puberty over the course of the show, I found it so cute, because all of a sudden his voice gets deeper, like from the first episode to like the first Donnie episode, I think, like the one in the Bishop arc. And I was just like, oh, they grow up so fast. Alright, next I wanted to talk about Raph, and holy shit, they absolutely fucking nailed it with this version of Raph. I feel like this show really allowed this version of Raph to shine in all of the best ways. I feel like they got his character so perfectly. His episodes, like his individual episodes, were some of my favorites of the entire show. Again, it goes without saying that 2012 Raph, that is my guy, but I also really love this Raph. He is so funny. Like, obviously, he's still the impulsive, hot headed one of the group, but there were so many times where he was making me laugh more than Mikey, and Mikey is very funny in the show. So that is very much so saying something. Like, especially his recap of the Mechazoid attack, that was my absolute favorite because of the impressions that he did of his brothers. Those were so good, and I love like I loved like seeing just like how Raph like perceives his brothers, because it was just so it was the comedy. It was so perfect in that sequence. And I love, also speaking of impressions, well, I guess this is sort of an impression, and depending on how you want to look at it, but I love how Raph was the one to do like Splinter's voice for the East River 3 arc, with that like using that like Batman voice, which was so funny. And okay, I don't know if this was meant to be a callback, but it was the first thing I thought of when he started doing the voice. So in the Michael Bay Ninja Turtles movies, in the 2014 movie, when the Turtles first meet April, Raph is doing this like Batman voice that Mikey makes fun of him for, because he's trying to be all intimidating and threatening and trying to scare April. And again, I don't know if this was meant to be like a callback to that, but it was the first thing I thought of, and it was very funny to me. But yeah, so regardless of whether it was supposed to be a reference, I love the voice that Raph did for Splinter, and I love how they're kind of, I'm not sure if this is intentional, but I hope it is, that they're kind of setting Raph up to be like the guy who does voice impressions, which I think would be really fun if they kind of really lean into that going forward. Because just like Brady Noon, fucking, he carried like doing that narration, man. Like, major props to him. I mean, the whole voice cast is so talented for the show, for the Mutant Mayhem verse, but I gotta give extra kudos to Brady, because he was essentially Splinter for the latter half of the season, in addition to being Raph. I'm very excited to see what they do next with Raph. Again, I'm very curious to see if he's going to continue to do voice impressions, but regardless, I'm very excited to see how his character evolves. And last, but certainly not least of the turtles, of course, we have Mikey. And again, I gotta give my general 2012 Mikey. I love him. That's my baby. He's so precious to me. That's my boy. But like, just like with this version of Raph, I feel like this version of Mikey was just so excellent in this show. I feel like he was so well done. This show did such a good job of highlighting all the best parts of this version of Mikey. This Mikey is goofy, but he's also capable. His whole episode during the East River 3 arc, where he's saving this whole convenience store full of people from getting electrocuted was so awesome. Like, he was so cool in that episode. I feel like it really demonstrated just how capable he is, and I loved it. And his banter is just the best, no matter who he's with, whether it's Rod or Genghis or Lee or his brothers. His banter is always so good. It always has me giggling. He always shines in whatever scene he's in, and it just makes me so excited for what they're gonna do with him in the future. If you hear the cat at any point, it's because she's roaming around right now. But next, I wanted to talk about April. April has a significantly smaller role in this show than she did in the movie, but she's still a fun character. She was putting in work in the fight against the Mechazoid with Leo, as well as the fight against Goldfin with Splinter. Her banter with Leo was great, as always. Iowa Debris is always phenomenal in the role. I will say, I would definitely recommend watching Mutant Mayhem first to get a better sense of her character, because her character is definitely better established and expanded on in the movie. But again, she was still a pleasure to have in the show. It's always great to see her. And if you want to specifically hear me gush more about this version of April, I would check out my video I did on Mutant Mayhem, because since she was a bigger character in that movie, I had a lot more to say about her in that video, so you can check that out if you so please. Next, we're going to talk about Splinter. Splinter, like April, has been relegated to a much smaller role than what he had in the movie, though in Splinter's case, I'm pretty sure it's due to the fact that Jackie Chan did not come back to voice Splinter in the show. But he does have a really cool fight with Goldfin in the latter half of the season, and he also essentially becomes the Rat King towards the end of the season as well, which was very interesting because the Rat King is usually like a separate character, but I actually really liked how they handled it in the show. What was most interesting about Splinter was the choice to not recast Jackie Chan. I mean, they did, but Fred Tatasciore is essentially speaking like gibberish, or vermin as they call it in the show, which, not sure how I feel about that, because the fact that they got someone as talented as Fred Tatasciore just to have him essentially be speaking gibberish felt like a huge missed opportunity, because like Fred is such a talented voice actor. He voiced Rocksteady in 2012 TMNT, and he just has like the most stacked resume you can imagine. Like, guys, like what were we doing? Like, what were we? I'm a little confused. What the why we didn't have Fred do an actual voice. I mean, don't get me wrong, Brady Noon absolutely killed it with his Splinter voice, the narration that he did for the East River 3 arc, but I do wish that Fred could have had his moment, but overall, Splinter, he was fine in the show. Alright, next we have Angel and Hun, who I'm grouping together since they're both purple dragons, and when I say that my jaw literally dropped to the floor when they introduced Angel, like, holy shit. Because, in case you don't know, Angel is this really cool character from the 2003 series. I'm not sure if she's appeared in anything else before that, but I know her from the 2003 Ninja Turtles series, and they made her somehow even cooler and even more of a badass in this show, and that just made me so happy, because I've been thinking for a while, and this is kind of something I tend to do. It's just like, I feel like there are so many characters across all the different versions of Turtles that I'm just like, I wish they would pull more of them into the newer versions of Turtles, because they are so cool, and I would love to see them. I would love to see new versions of them, because I really like them, and Angel is definitely one of those characters, and so I'm so happy that she's in the show, and I just, oh my god, I want to see more of her because I love her. And as for Hun in this show is just an absolute sweetie, which is definitely a huge shift from Hun's of Turtles past. But I think making him younger in this show definitely helped with that personality change. Like, he's just a sweet guy who likes chickens, which again, not what I would have expected from Hun, but I think it works in this show, and he's cool too. He's got his badass moments as well. All right, we are back. It is a different day. I've reclaimed some of my filming space. You guys can't see it, but there's still very much a lot of cat stuff around the room. Also, if you hear noises from outside, I have to keep the window open because the cat likes to come and sit on the windowsill, so apologies for that in advance. Alright, picking up from where I left off, next I wanted to talk about Bishop and Rod. Bishop is an interesting character that I have mixed feelings about because, on the one hand, I do think that it's very cool that she's like this tech robotics genius. On the other hand, I found her motivation for hating mutants and wanting to eliminate all mutants to be pretty weak, honestly. Like, so she hates the turtles because they inadvertently destroyed the robot that she dedicated to her sister during their showdown with Superfly in the events of the movie. But, like, the robot isn't her sister. Like, can't she just make a new robot? What is stopping her from making a new robot? Because from my understanding, her sister Elena is still alive. So I'm just like, unless I missed something in that, like her sister is dead, or like her sister's consciousness was like in that robot or something, like, you're literally like, she's literally working for like multi-million billionaire Rod's dad. Like, he's paying her so that she can make these robots in the first place. Like, can't she just make a new robot? Like, I was very confused about that because unless that robot was like her sister or had like her sister's consciousness in it or something, I feel like there's a pretty big, like, having just the robot being destroyed is like all of a sudden like, I hate mutants and I want to kill all mutants. Like, I feel like we missed a couple of steps here. Like, I wasn't really following that line of logic. It just, like, the motivation just didn't really make sense to me. I'll talk about Bishop more in a bit, but yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about her. And as for Rod, I don't really have that much to say about him, other than that I think it's very funny that he's voiced by Pete Davidson. I didn't know that Pete Davidson was going to be in the show, and I, like, when I heard Rod speak, I was like, he sounds very familiar, but I can't put my finger on it. And then when I looked at the cast, I was like, that's Pete Davidson. So that was very funny to me, but Rod's just okay. And last but certainly not least, as far as characters are concerned, I have to shout out Metalhead because he was the best boy. I loved him so much. Oh, hello, kitty. You want to hear me talk about Metalhead? You want to help me do the video? No, you cannot drink my water bottle. But so I really hope that they bring Metalhead back in the next movie or for future seasons. You're tickling me. She's just like walking around right now. Um, hello. Okay. But so I really hope. Okay, yes, you gotta. That's my tripod. Okay. I hope they bring Metalhead back because he was so cute and polite, and I just need Donnie to rebuild him like immediately because he was such a perfect addition to the team and I loved him. He was just the best boy. So Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was split into two story arcs, so I figured I would give my thoughts on each arc, starting with the Bishop arc. Obviously, this is the first arc, and it was the arc that was teased the most before the show came out, and I was actually under the impression that it was going to be the arc of the entire show. Maybe they had said that there were going to be two arcs, but I missed that. So I was really under the impression that we were going to follow this storyline throughout the whole season. So I was very surprised to actually find out as I was watching that there were two arcs. Personally, I do think that the Bishop arc was the weaker of the two. Like I was saying before, with Bishop as a character, I think that if she had had a more solid, stronger motivation, then I would have enjoyed this arc more. I still really, really liked it, but I think having her motivation be a little bit more, I guess, just fleshed out would have made me love this arc more. Because again, Bishop hating mutants and wanting to kill all mutants because the turtles accidentally, mind you, destroyed the robot that she dedicated to her sister. Like, the way she was acting, you would have thought that, like, without like the context of the show, that they had killed her actual sister. Like, I get that the robots are Bishop's life's work, but like, again, like I was saying before, you literally work for a multi-millionaire who can just give you more money to make more robots, which is essentially, isn't that what happened? So again, I feel like I must have missed something because you ended up being able to make even more robots. Like, did I miss something? I feel like I missed something because it just, again, I feel like we missed a couple of steps as to like how going from destroying these robots accidentally, all of a sudden she's like, I need to kill all mutants. I will say though, my favorite thing that this arc did was set up Bishop's relationship with the Earth Protection Force, because even though I haven't fully bought into her motivations for hating mutants, I do think that she has the potential to become a really cool character, and I feel like this is her in, so I'm very excited to see what they do with her in the future. Now moving on to the East River 3 arc, for an arc that I didn't know was going to happen. I really, really love this arc. I think that this arc was so, so good. I had so much fun with it. The East River 3 are such fun characters. My personal favorite was Lee, her fight with Mikey. I mean, I already talked about this in Mikey's section, but I loved that fight in the convenience store. I thought it was so fun. Their dynamic was super fun. I really enjoyed their banter. I hope that they bring her and the rest of the East River 3 back for future seasons or in the next movie, because I really, really like them as characters. And unlike Bishop, I actually feel like the East River 3's motivations for why they were doing what they were doing was actually more plausible, which is very funny to me. But I feel like it actually made sense. Like, it made sense given their backgrounds and their backstories. Like, it actually, like, I could follow the line of logic there. And while yes, their whole plan to steal the pearl from the museum was definitely very roundabout, I was able to look past that because their episodes with the turtles and April and Splinter were just so much fun. Also, I thought it was very cool that Danny Trejo voiced Mustang Sally, because fun fact, Danny Trejo voiced the Neutralizer in the 2012 Ninja Turtles series. So I thought that was a fun little thing. And overall, I just think that the East River 3 arc really allowed all the best parts of the Turtles and April and Splinter to really shine through in ways that the Bishop arc just wasn't as consistent with. Because while I enjoyed Leo and Donnie's episodes in the Bishop arc, I really do think that their episodes in the East River 3 arc were much stronger. And I almost feel like maybe if the Bishop arc had been the second arc in the series and the East River 3 arc had been the first, I would have actually liked the Bishop arc more, but oh well. They were both good arcs, but I do think that overall the East River 3 arc was executed much better. Alright, the last thing that I wanted to talk about in this video is whether or not I think that Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles can stand alone as a series separate from the Mutant Mayhem movie. What's really interesting about this show is that this is the first time that a Ninja Turtles cartoon is a continuation of a movie universe, of a movie canon, because usually each Ninja Turtles cartoon and movie or movie series are their own separate canon. Obviously, you have the Rise movie and the 2003 1980s Turtles Forever crossover movie, but those movies were continuations of their respective cartoons, not the other way around. Now, while I think Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a good show, it has the same lighthearted fun as the movie, and you can technically jump in without having seen Mutant Mayhem because neither of the season arcs have anything to do really that much with Mutant Mayhem, I would say that you're better off watching the movie first. Part of it definitely has to do with the fact that they do make references to events and characters that are in the movie that you may not get if you only watch this show. But the biggest reason for me personally is that April and Splinter's characters are much better established and expanded on in Mutant Mayhem. You wouldn't really know that if you only watched the show by itself without having watched Mutant Mayhem. I really do believe that you can still enjoy Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles without having seen Mutant Mayhem. It's a really fun show. The animation style is really good and the characters are still overall very good. But having seen both Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Mutant Mayhem, preferably Mutant Mayhem first, will help paint the full picture of the Mutant Mayhem verse, which is what I think the goal of this show was. Alright, that is all I have for today's Fangirl Fridays video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you for being patient during all my technical difficulties of having to navigate filming this video with the arrival of the cat. So thank you guys so much. for watching this video. If you guys have seen Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, let me know what you think. Who is your favorite turtle or favorite character from the Mutant Mayhem verse, or just Ninja Turtles at large? I would love to know. Or if you haven't seen the show, do you plan on watching it? Once again, that's all I have for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I upload Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, except when I don't. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.